Ciao, sono Prof. Gisli. Benvenuti sul mio canale. In today's lesson, we'll focus on Italian singular and plural subject pronouns, and we'll introduce the present tense conjugations of verbs essere, to be, and avere, to have. Subject pronouns are used in place of a noun as the subject of a sentence. In other words, they replace the subject, be it a person, an animal, a thing, or a place, that is either being or doing the action. For example, in these two sentences, pronoun she replaces the name of the teacher, and pronoun they replaces the names of the four singers. Before explaining how subject pronouns work in more detail, I'll introduce Italian subject pronouns. Let's start by looking at singular subject pronouns. The Italian equivalent to first-person subject pronoun I is io. As for the second-person singular, you in Italian is expressed with two different pronouns, according to the level of formality needed to address your interlocutor. So we use tu in informal contexts, for example, when speaking with family, friends, children, and young people in general. And we use lei in formal contexts, for example, when speaking with acquaintances or people we do not know, elderly people, or in professional, more formal settings. Italian third-person subject pronouns equivalent to he and she are lui and lei. Pronoun lei, meaning formal you, is usually written with a capital L to distinguish it from lei, meaning she. As for plural subject pronouns, the Italian equivalent of first-person we is noi, of second-person you is voi, and of third-person they is loro. Now your turn to practice subject pronouns. Repeat after me, singular first. Io, tu, lei, lui, lei. And now the plural. Noi, voi, loro. To explain how Italian subject pronouns work within a sentence, let's compare them with English subject pronouns. So to give an example, in English, the sentence Lisa has a dog can be rewritten as she has a dog, where she is the third-person singular subject pronoun, which replaces the name of the subject, Lisa. In Italian, subject pronouns work in the same way. Using the same sentence, we can say Lisa ha un cane, or replace the name of the subject, Lisa, with the equivalent subject pronoun lei. So we can say lei ha un cane. But in daily conversation, unlike English subject pronouns, Italian subject pronouns are often omitted because the subject is also indicated through the verb ending. So instead of saying lei ha un cane, we can drop the subject pronoun lei and simply say ha un cane, where a is the third-person singular of the present indicative of verb avere, meaning she has. However, in some cases, you must use subject pronouns. For example, when you want to clarify the identity of the subject or emphasize who the subject is by expressing a contrast between the subject and another person or thing. So let's look at these two sentences. The one we used earlier, lei ha un cane, she has a dog, and lui ha un gatto, he has a cat. If we were to omit the pronouns, we would still get two meaningful grammatically correct sentences, ha un cane and ha un gatto. However, if we had to clarify or emphasize who the person owning a dog is, or indeed who the person owning a cat is, we would have to create a contrast, and to do that we would need to use the subject pronouns lei and lui. On top of that, we would have to place the stress on the pronoun when uttering the sentence. That's the way it should sound. Lei ha un cane. And similarly we would say lui ha un gatto. the Italian subject pronouns we've introduced today are used in spoken Italian. In formal written Italian, other third-person subject pronouns are normally used, but to keep things simple, we'll leave them out for the time being. Essere and avere are two of the most important and most common Italian verbs. They are irregular verbs which can function both as main verbs, expressing either the action or the state of being of the subject, and auxiliary verbs, which means that when combined with other verbs, they help form compound tenses, like the past tense. In this lesson, we will focus on the present tense conjugation of essere and avere. Here is the full conjugation of the present tense of verb essere, including both singular and plural forms. Io sono. Tu sei. Lei è. Lui è. Lei è. Noi siamo. Voi siete. Loro sono. As I pointed out earlier, you can avoid using subject pronouns unless you need them for clarity, emphasis, or contrast. Even when different persons take the same verb form, as is the case with the first person singular and the third person plural, or with the second formal person singular and the third person singular, you can still be able to omit subject pronouns if the subject of the sentence can be inferred either through the context of speech or from the sentence itself. Having said that, when you practice Italian verb conjugations, I advise you not to omit the pronouns, because practicing verb forms alongside their corresponding subject pronouns makes it easier to recall them when you start forming sentences. And although it sounds a bit tedious, repeating verb conjugations aloud is still the best way to memorize them. Now let's practice. Ripetete. Repeat after me. Io sono. Tu sei. Lei è. Lui è. Lei è. Noi siamo. Voi siete. Loro sono. And here is the full conjugation of the present indicative of verb avere. Io ho. Tu hai. Lei ha. Lui ha. Lei ha. Noi abbiamo. Voi avete. Loro hanno. Always remember that Italian H, H, is a silent letter, so when you find it at the beginning of a word, as is the case with some of these verb forms, you should ignore it and only pronounce the letters following it. Now let's practice. Ripetete. Repeat after me. Io ho. Tu hai. Lei ha. Lui ha. Lei ha. Noi abbiamo. Voi avete. Loro hanno. And that's all for now. Don't forget to join me in my next lesson, and if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel so you won't miss any upcoming videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Arrivederci!